Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Battle Through the Heavens Part 185 based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan's group did not continue to remain after making up their minds. They immediately moved and hurried back to the Falling Star Pavilion. After returning to the pavilion, the group rested for 2 days. Information related to the Bodhisattva ancient tree began to sweep across the central plains with a frightening storm-like speed during these 2 days. With the simple name, Bodhisattva ancient tree, the entire central plains had undoubtedly turned into a mess at this moment. Even the old demons who lived in seclusion had appeared because of this earth-shaking news. Although the ancient wasteland region was quite dangerous, the danger merely existed because there was insufficient allure. This time around, the allure of the Bodhisattva ancient tree was something that no one could resist. Hence, this so-called forbidden ground no longer deterred anyone. The Doshan class represented the peak level across the continent. A countless number of people had fought their entire lives in order to reach this legendary level. As long as there was even the slightest thing that could raise the chances of them reaching that level, everyone would pounce over without any hesitation. Even if they were moths pouncing into a flame, none of them would hesitate even a little. Clearly, the appearance of the Bodhisattva ancient tree stirred a great storm across the central plains. While various factions throughout the central plains were experiencing a great commotion, Xiao Yan, who had rested for 2 days, gradually recovered. However, he did not leave. Instead, he found a secluded chamber and undertook a retreat. After having heard Yao Lao's words, Xiao Yan's heart had honestly begun to view the purifying demonic lotus flame seriously. He was clearly aware that Yao Lao would not lie to him, and Yao Lao's experience was far from what he could compare with. Since Yao Lao had spoken such words, Yao Lao would definitely not allow him to touch the purifying demonic lotus flame unless he reached the Doshan class. In that case, he could only start to concentrate on his next aim, the Bodhisattva ancient tree that was about to appear. If he wished to reach the Doshan class within 3 years, he needed to borrow the strength of the Bodhisattva heart. Otherwise, it was impossible to advance in time. Time was something that Xiao Yan was aware of after thinking about training in the heavenly tomb back then. The energy in that place was a couple of times denser than in the outside world. Xiao Yan might have trained 3 years within the heavenly tomb, but if he had not obtained the inheritance of his ancestor, Xiao Xian, it probably would have been impossible to reach his current level, and one would find it more difficult to train during the later stages of the Dozan class. He was currently only at the peak of an 8-star Dozan. There was still the 9th star and the peak of the 9th star above him. After reaching the peak, he would still need to experience the 9 changes in order to break through to the Doshan class. With this many steps, it was impossible for an ordinary person to finish the training within 30 years, much less in a mere 3 years. Even though Xiao Yan possessed an extremely great talent and had the aid of many medicinal pills, it was impossible for him to reduce this amount of time by 10 times or more. Hence, he needed to take this opportunity to enter the ancient wasteland region and obtain the Bodhisattva heart. Only with the Bodhisattva heart would his strength soar within 3 years and reach the Doshan class. Otherwise, when the purifying demonic lotus flame appeared in 3 years' time, he could only be an observer that watched this heavenly flame become someone else's property. Xiao Yan was unable to endure such a thing. Hence, he had to obtain the Bodhisattva heart. Moreover, the Bodhisattva ancient tree had clearly stirred the attention of many factions within the central plains. It was not as easy to successfully obtain the Bodhisattva heart from the hands of these countless individuals. There would also be some like Qian Hizi or stronger old demons among them. Hence, Xiao Yan must try his best to increase his strength. The fastest way to increase one's strength was undoubtedly to practice a high-class Do skill. It was Xiao Yan's intention to practice the King Kong glass body, which he had just obtained, during this retreat. This thing was a Qian class Do skill and definitely possessed an extraordinary strength. If he could successfully practice it, he would be more confident during this trip to the wasteland region. The scent of sandalwood lingered within the quiet room. Xiao Yan sat on a stone bed. He clenched his hand and a dark golden scroll appeared in it. He lifted the scroll, and he saw a couple of ancient words on the side. King Kong glass body. Xiao Yan gently exhaled and placed the scroll on his forehead. This Qian-class Do skill was not as troublesome as the Great Heaven Creation Palm. One could just use one's spiritual strength to obtain it. The reason that it was so troublesome last time was because that was the elite Do Sheng's intention. The scroll touched Xiao Yan's brow while a thought passed through his heart and a golden light shot out of the scroll. An enormous amount of information surged into Xiao Yan's mind like floodwater. The King Kong glass body, Tian-class low-level Do skill turns one's body into metal that nothing can pierce or destroy. When one fully masters this Do skill, one's body turns into King Kong. Their body becomes 99 feet in size, extremely strong, and a dazzling golden light appears. One's fist will shatter the sky while one's feet will crack the land. After reading the large golden words that reverberated around his head, Xiao Yan was able to sense just how domineering this Do skill was. This was a Do skill that used Do Qi to strengthen one's physical body. Upon studying this Do skill's method, he involuntarily let out a sigh of admiration. It was indeed a powerful Do skill that could only be created by an elite Do Sheng. The current Xiao Yan could be considered to have extremely picky eyes. The Do skills that he had practiced included some Qian-class Do skills, so his practice of this skill was quite smooth. It was said that all techniques would be clear after one mastered one technique. The various Do skills might have different training methods, but all of them ultimately shared the same root. Once one mastered this point, it was not difficult to learn other Do skills with the exception of some unique ones. In order to practice this King Kong glass body, one needed to merge one's Do Qi with one's bones, blood, and flesh using a unique method. The Do skill was harsh on one's physical body. Fortunately, Xiao Yan's physical body had undergone many refinements by various natural treasures. Although he did not dare to call his body undefeatable, it was at least able to withstand the harsh requirement needed to practice the King Kong glass body. Xiao Yan exhaled through his mouth. He slowly shut his eyes and began trying to practice this so-called King Kong glass body according to the method recorded on the scroll. Crack crack. Soon after Xiao Yan shut his eyes, a golden light shot out of his body before it suddenly swelled a little. There was even a faint bone-cracking sound that appeared. This growth became faster as the golden light became denser. Within less than half a minute, Xiao Yan's body had become twice its size. At a glance, he appeared like a small giant. Moreover, his originally pale skin had been dyed a dark golden color. Xiao Yan's body swelled to twice its size before it ceased becoming stronger. The golden light gradually dimmed and his body swiftly shrank. Within the blink of an eye, it had returned to its previous state. Xiao Yan suddenly opened his eyes after his body shrank back to its original size. A mouthful of bright red blood was spat out, dyeing the ground red. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched after spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. His expression became quite ugly. This damn scroll did not mention that practicing this King Kong glass body requires one to endure an intense pain. Imagine a person's body suddenly swelling a couple of times its size. Just what would the body feel? Its skin would tear, its muscles would break, its bones would shatter. No wonder there's such a harsh requirement for one's physical body. If it was someone with a weaker constitution, the first swell from earlier would have caused their body to burst apart. Xiao Yan shook his head in a speechless manner. He quietly sighed. Regardless of how much pain he felt, he needed to practice it. It was impossible not to pay a price if one wished to obtain great strength. If Xiao Yan was able to endure this kind of intense pain, he would get used to such a transformation with his constitution. At that time, he would be able to truly unleash the might of the King Kong glass body, but he needed to continue swelling his body, allowing his skin, muscles, and bones to get used to this kind of intense pain. Practicing this Do skill is a kind of torture. Xiao Yan miserably sighed in his heart. He once again shut his eyes as a golden light shot out. His body swelled once again before shrinking. After which, it swelled and shrank again as fresh blood was spat time and time again. It was as though blood was free as he continued to spit it out of his mouth. Fortunately, the fresh blood that was spat out diminished with the flow of time. Half a month passed while Xiao Yan was undertaking a retreat. During this half a month, the Central Plains had descended into chaos. Countless factions had already dispatched their people to head near the ancient wasteland region, but the main forces did not move because they were waiting for the accuracy of the information to be confirmed. Once the Bodhisattva ancient tree truly appeared, it would create an unusual phenomenon. At that moment, the entire Central Plains would be able to sense the change. Only when they truly sensed this kind of phenomenon would these factions, which were ready to move, truly become excited. Another 5 days slowly passed with this restlessness. When the first ray of morning light shot to the land on the 6th day, a clear aura suddenly began to sweep from the northeastern sky across the Central Plains. It was like a wave that suddenly swept over the sky and scattered into the distance. Anyone who inhaled this clear air would have a similar image appear deep within their minds. It was that of an ancient towering tree. An intelligent aura spread from this ancient tree. This was the legendary Bodhisattva ancient tree. A commotion had finally broken out across the Central Plains at this moment. There were a cluster of quiet rooms deep within the Falling Star Pavilion. All of these rooms were built for the elders of the Falling Star Pavilion. Only elders had the qualification to train in these rooms since the energy there was the densest within the star realm. Many elders would gather in this place on an ordinary day to spar and train. It was naturally no different at this moment. Many elderly figures were standing around the empty ground outside of these quiet rooms as they chatted merrily. Bang! This kind of peaceful atmosphere did not last for long before it was suddenly broken by an intense explosion. Immediately, many stunned gazes shot over. They landed on a quiet room that was a short distance away as it suddenly blasted apart. There was a golden light vaguely flickering from it. This is. Many elders were stunned upon seeing this light. Bang! Another loud sound appeared as the tough room was forcefully blasted apart. After which, a 70-foot-tall yellow golden giant stood up from the quiet room in front of many stunned eyes. Its steps shook the mountain as it walked out of the ruins of the room. After which, it explosively roared at the sky. The frightening sound immediately became a real substance that swept apart like a storm. That powerful sonic wave spread to every corner of the star realm. Those elders who were near it were forced back by over a dozen steps before their bodies were stabilized. What is that thing? Most of the elders' expressions changed when they sensed the frightening strength of the yellow golden giant. They could sense an extremely dangerous aura from it. It was as though that big fellow only needed to throw a punch to smash them into mincemeat. This feeling caused the eyes of many elders to involuntarily twitch. The weakest among them was barely a dozun, while the strongest were 8 or 9-star dozuns. However, even these people felt an extreme danger when looking at this yellow golden giant. Fortunately, these elders did possess the quality that an expert ought to have. They swiftly scattered after feeling an initial shock and vaguely formed a circle around the yellow golden giant. They would attack and kill it if it displayed any unusual activity. Ha ha, is this the King Kong glass body? It does have some unique aspects. While many elders were solemnly watching the giant, a couple of figures had rushed over from the distance. They stopped in the air. They were Yao Lao, Kalin, and the little fairy doctor, who had hurried over after hearing the commotion. Those elders hurriedly bowed and greeted Yao Lao the moment he appeared. An elder involuntarily asked, "Pavilion Chief, who is this?" "Ha ha, Xiao Yan," Yao Lao smiled and replied. The elders were immediately startled upon hearing this. They were stunned as they glanced back at the golden giant. None of them would have imagined that this thing was something that Xiao Yan had transformed into. Ha ha. The golden giant let out a mighty laugh in front of everyone's stunned eyes. A golden light immediately shot out and the enormous body began to quickly shrink. Within a short dozen-plus seconds, the giant morphed into a skinny figure. Xiao Yan did not cough out blood after returning to his original form, but he still let out a couple of intense coughs. It was clearly the result of the intense pain from his body's transformation. Unfortunately, the King Kong glass body that I have practiced is only 70 feet tall or so. There is still a gap with the 99-foot peak. Xiao Yang shook his head and spoke in a somewhat regretful manner. You should not be unsatisfied. If your physical body had not undergone the refinement of various natural treasures and medicinal liquids, you would not have reached this level even if you had been given half a year, Yao Lao laughed. Xiao Yan grinned. He was aware that the rate of his progress was already considered very good. The reason he was only able to reach 70 feet or so was because he was limited by the strength of his body. If he obtained some more natural treasures that could refine his physical body, he might be able to leap all the way to the 99-foot peak. At that time, Xiao Yang was confident that he would be able to blast apart an ordinary Peak Dozun class expert with a punch. After this period of training, my aura has also grown a little. The ancient wasteland region might be extremely dangerous, but there are also many natural treasures that cannot be found in the outside world. If I am lucky enough during this trip, I might be able to reach a 9-star Dozun and successfully master the King Kong glass body before finding the Bodhisattva ancient tree, Xiao Yang mused to himself. The current him needed to constantly strengthen himself. The information has been confirmed. The appearance of the Bodhisattva ancient tree is indeed true. Yao Lao looked at Xiao Yang before slowly speaking. Oh! Xiao Yang's heart involuntarily pounded when he heard this news. He tilted his head. It was likely that the other factions had also started moving. This time around, you will lead some people to head to the ancient wasteland region first. You possess the spatial jade token that I gave you. Break it if you meet with any trouble that you cannot resolve. I will hurry over immediately, Yao Lao said. The Bodhisattva ancient tree's allure is too great. It is likely that even those ancient clans will intervene. Hence, it will be quite difficult to successfully obtain the Bodhisattva heart. Xiao Yang nodded. He was already mentally prepared for this and was unsurprised. I will need to remain in the Falling Star Pavilion to guard it. Therefore, you will have to rely on yourself during the journey ahead. Break the token once you enter the deepest part of the ancient region. After all, with your strength, that place will likely be quite dangerous. Yao Lao patted Xiao Yang's shoulder and softly sighed. This trip is far too important to you. Do your best. When should we leave? Xiao Yang softly asked. As soon as possible. You have been in a retreat for half a month. Many factions have already entered the ancient wasteland region during this period of time, Yao Lao replied. Xiao Yang slightly nodded. After which, he slowly declared, then we will get moving now. Xiao Yang had always did things with great speed. He would not stop even for a moment after making up his mind. He immediately moved and flew to the northeast. This time around, he brought 4 people with him. The people were Kailin, the little fairy doctor, Qinglin, and an elder, whose strength had reached the peak of the Dozun class. Qian Huasunja was currently undertaking a retreat and had to be left behind. Kailin and the little fairy doctor's fighting strength had reached the equivalent of an 8-star Dozun. They would be able to fight against an expert at the peak of the Dozun class if they joined hands. Due to being in possession of the triple jade green snake flower pupils, Qinglin was also in control of an extremely powerful fighting force. Additionally, she possessed the mysterious strength of controlling snake-shaped magical beast, so she was quite important for this trip to the wasteland. Although this group was not large, it was quite powerful. With so many of them joining hands, things would not be difficult unless they meet an overly frightening opponent. The ancient wasteland region was located in the northeastern part of the Central Plains. It was quite far from the Falling Star Pavilion. Even though Xiao Yang's group traveled at their fastest and shuttled through a couple of wormholes along the way, it took 6 days before they reached the borders of the northeastern part of the Central Plains. During this journey, Xiao Yang's group came across human traffic from all directions heading the same way as them. The destination of these people was the ancient wasteland region. This discovery caused Xiao Yang to softly sigh in his heart. It was unexpected that the temptation of the Bodhisattva ancient tree was this frightening. That place was known as a forbidden ground to humans in the past, The wasteland town was the last human town closest to the ancient wasteland region. Usually not many people lived in the town, and due to the ancient wasteland region's ferocious reputation, seldom anyone traveled here. Hence, the town remained deserted all year round, but it was different today. The appearance of the Bodhisattva ancient tree had attracted a countless number of people. This deserted town had turned lively in an instant. Noise could be vaguely heard from a couple of kilometers away. The first stop of Xiao Yan's group was this small town known as Wasteland Town. They had come later than others and naturally needed to obtain some information related to the ancient wasteland region. Otherwise, their fates would likely be miserable if they simply charged in blindly. Hence, Xiao Yan settled the little fairy doctor's group down after reaching the wasteland town before heading out to gather information. He only reunited with Kaylin's group 2 hours later. "How is it?" Kaylin involuntarily asked after seeing Xiao Yan's expression when they reunited. Xiao Yan softly sighed. His finger rubbed his forehead as he said, "According to the information that I have gathered, the group that entered the ancient wasteland region earlier have all died. There were even some Dozan class experts among them." The expression of Kaylin's group changed upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. "All dead? Was this ancient wasteland region actually this dangerous? What should we do?" The little fairy doctor knit her brows and asked. "Some experts will enter tomorrow. We will follow behind that large group. Since this ancient wasteland region is called the forbidden ground of humans, it is definitely not a nice place. We will follow behind those people and observe the situation." Xiao Yan's finger gently knocked against the table. This ancient wasteland region was definitely mysterious. One needed to remain calm at all times in order to truly enter the deepest region. Any carelessness might result in the complete annihilation of a group. This price was something that he could not afford. Hence, he had to be cautious with everything he did. A densely packed group of people gathered outside of Wasteland Town the next day. Noise mingled together and turned into a loud tide that spread into the distance. Xiao Yan's group stood at the back. They studied the 1,000+ people gathered in front and involuntarily shook their heads in a speechless manner. It was the first time that they had seen experts gather in such a scale. A short distance in front of this enormous group was an original forest that was filled with an ancient aura. 1,000-foot-tall trees stood like numerous giants. The trees blotted out the sun. Even the light from the sky had difficulty lighting up the forest. At a glance, the deepest parts of the forest were permeated with a frightening darkness. Occasionally, some ferocious beast roars were emitted from within, causing one to feel a chill within one's heart. These people have all been lured by the Bodhisattva ancient tree to the point of losing their reasoning. Xiao Yan shook his head. The ancient wasteland region was called the forbidden grounds of humans. Even an elite Dozan would likely die after entering it. However, many of those gathered here only had the strength of Dozons or even Do-Huangs. If these people entered the ancient region, any trouble they met would kill them. They would turn into fertilizer for the towering trees. However, this ancient wasteland region is indeed quite terrifying, the little fairy doctor softly stated. Everyone felt tiny beneath the giant trees. One felt an insignificance when viewing an extremely long number of years that stretched back to ancient times. This region was known as the oldest place on the continent. Xiao Yan nodded. He withdrew his scanning eyes. There were too many people present. He was unable to find a familiar figure. After withdrawing his gaze, a commotion began to gradually spread across this enormous crowd. It seemed that these people were planning to charge in. Rumble. Thousands of people ran, causing the land to tremble and rumble. Loud roars sounded as countless numbers of figures rushed away with a swish sound and anxiously charged into this quiet ancient region. Xiao Yan could not help but shake his head as he watched the frightening activity these people created. He softly said, "We will enter after most of them have gone in. Since they wish to be the ones at the front lines, we'll let them do as they please." The little fairy doctor's trio smiled and nodded upon hearing Xiao Yan's words. The group sat in a quiet spot. They waited for around half an hour before Xiao Yan finally got up. He looked at the forest, which appeared chaotic due to the large number of people. Only then did he wave his hand and say, "Let's get moving. Everyone, be careful." Xiao Yan's toes pressed on the ground after his words sounded. He took the lead as he transformed into a black figure that charged toward the ancient forest with lightning-like speed. Kaylin, the little fairy doctor, and the others followed close behind. The light around Xiao Yang suddenly dimmed the moment he charged into the ancient forest. Waves of the scent of rotten leaves spread in all directions. Xiao Yang's figure paused for a moment after entering the forest. He glanced at the many small groups a short distance away, but he did not have any intention of stopping and chatting with them. His toes pressed on a tree branch and his figure continued to hurry forward. Xiao Yang's group was quite fast. Within less than 10 minutes, they had already advanced over 5 kilometers. There was no unexpected occurrences along the way. Even though they occasionally met one or two ferocious beasts, these beasts would be attacked by everyone as a group and be turned into mincemeat. Although the journey was smooth, Xiao Yang ended up knitting his brow. The ancient wasteland region was known as forbidden ground to humans. It was impossible for it to be this peaceful. This place might only be an edge, but things should not be this smooth. A caution gradually rose in Xiao Yang's heart when these thoughts appeared. His forward-moving speed had slightly slowed. All he did was follow the large group in front from afar. With these people as the scouts, Xiao Yang's group would have sufficient time to react even if something unexpected occurred. Kaylin and the others understood the thoughts in Xiao Yang's heart. Hence, they remained cautious as well. The caution felt by Xiao Yang's group increased as they gradually traveled farther from the border of the ancient wasteland region. A couple of figures flashed through the dimly lit forest and came to an abrupt halt on a huge tree. A poison fog has risen around here, the little fairy doctor's pretty eyes swept around her. She was extremely attuned to poison fog. Hence, she detected the poison vapor the moment it appeared. Xiao Yang's group was slightly startled when they heard her warning. A poison in this ancient wasteland region was an extremely troublesome problem. If one inhaled too much, even an elite dozun would end up dying from it. Consume these poison-resisting pills. It will help resist this poison. The little fairy doctor smiled. She handed a couple of scarlet medicinal pills out to Xiao Yang's group. She was indeed inferior to Xiao Yang when it came to pill refinement, but her understanding of poison was likely at a level where even 10 Xiao Yang were inferior to her. Xiao Yang shrugged his shoulders. He took the medicinal pill and stuffed it in his mouth. He was just about to speak when the group in front suddenly transmitted miserable screeches, causing some chaos. Looks like they have been poisoned, Xiao Yang shook his head. The poisonous vapor in this place was quite lethal. If one's strength was inadequate, inhaling even a little of it could be fatal. These people had tasted the terrible fate from being overconfident. Let's get moving, Xiao Yang softly spoke after watching everyone consume the poison-resisting pill. They increased their speed. He did not possess the heart to rescue all those unlucky individuals. Since they had come this far and couldn't resist the greed in their hearts, they were responsible for their own fates. With the increase in their speed, the surrounding poison fog became denser. Those miserable cries that were being transmitted also became sharper. In the end, a wild and violent do-chi fluctuation was emitted. It was likely from some of the poisoned experts, who had lost their sense of reasoning. Bang! Xiao Yang's group frowned as they shuttled through the poison fog. An extremely intense do-chi fluctuation was suddenly transmitted from a short distance in front of them. Xiao Yang's brow twitched when he sensed this fluctuation. He reduced his speed, and his body appeared on the ground. He looked at a completely black corpse on the empty ground in front of him. The face of the corpse still retained fear and regret. An elite dozun, Xiao Yang softly sighed. This unlucky fellow was a genuine dozun. It was unexpected that even an expert was unable to endure the poison. The poison in this place is likely a little mysterious. An elite dozun is able to unleash his do-chi and wrap it around his body. An ordinary poison would be useless against them. Xiao Yan revealed an expression of contemplation as he muttered. The little fairy doctor was startled when she heard this. She immediately nodded and grabbed some poisonous vapor in her hand before absorbing it into her body. Her delicate figure suddenly trembled a moment later while her face turned quite ugly. What's the matter? Xiao Yang hurriedly asked when he saw the little fairy doctor's ugly expression. The little fairy doctor gently exhaled. she softly said, "It is indeed strange. This is not poison, but it is poisonous worms, B. Poisonous worms?" Xiao Yan was startled. His eyes stared at the poison fog, but he did not find any traces of poisonous worms. These poisonous worms are extremely tiny. They are so small that they are invisible to the naked eye. They drift within this forest. Those people have sucked in hundreds of millions of tiny poisonous worms. It is likely that these things also exist in your bodies. My body hides an extremely lethal poison. They will be poisoned to death by my poison qi the moment they enter my body. Hiss. Xiao Yan's group involuntarily inhaled a breath of cold air when they heard her words. Their bodies felt completely numb. Xiao Yan reacted quickly after feeling numb for a moment. The heavenly flame within his body suddenly began to circulate. It swept over every part of his body, and its high temperature seeped into his blood vessels. While Xiao Yan was circulating his heavenly flame, a chirping sound that caused one's skin to turn numb suddenly rang out. It appeared as though a countless number of poisonous worms were being burned to death in an instant. These damn things. Xiao Yan's expression was gloomy. He flicked his finger and clusters of black ashes shot out from it. They were the ashes from those poisonous worms that had entered his body. Xiao Yan swiftly gathered a cluster of heavenly flames within his hand after expelling the poisonous worms in his body. He subsequently slapped the flames into Cai Lin, Qing Lin, and the elder called Qing Cheng. Its high temperature entered their bodies through their skin, and a chirping cry was also emitted from their bodies, causing one's heart to feel cold. Do not step out of a 50-foot radius around me. These poisonous worms can ignore the Do Qi protecting one's body. Xiao Yan's eyes cautiously swept around him as he opened his mouth and exhaled. A cluster of purple-brown flames with a trace of white floated above his head as a frighteningly high temperature spread apart and coincidentally covered the area within a 50-foot radius around him. The poison fog appeared to be startled when this high temperature spread. It quickly pulled away and no longer dared to permeate the 50-foot radius around Xiao Yan. Just this layer of poison fog alone will be able to block 80% of the people. This ancient wasteland region does live up to its reputation, Xiao Yan sighed in relief after expelling the poison fog. If not for the little fairy doctor's ability to detect poisons, the amount of poison worms in their bodies would have increased. Once the number of poison worms had reached a frightening level, they would have caused their group to suffer heavy casualties and injuries. However, just this alone will not be able to block us. Xiao Yan clenched his hand. His eyes were fiery hot as he looked toward the deeper regions of the ancient wasteland region. It was likely that some of those experts with ability had already charged in. Hence, he also needed to increase his speed. He would definitely obtain the Bodhisattva heart. This video will end here.